Sure. Welcome to the MAP, the Mental Health and Addiction Podcast. My name is Andy Bernstein, and we're glad you could join us. And a quick little disclaimer, our hope for the show is that you will gain some more insight about the world of mental health and addiction through our various discussions and guests. And joining me as always is the great Willie Drinkwater. Willie, who are you?
Who am I? I'm a person in long-term recovery myself. I'm an educator for UMass Boston in the Addiction Counseling Education Program. I have a private practice up in Beverly, which means I basically had a private practice at my home since the pandemic began, because everything has been telehealth up to this point and stuff. Starting to get back to my office once in a while, but not that often still. So.
And you specialize in
I specialize in addiction with co-occurring disorders,
which means
other areas of mental health that need to be addressed: trauma, grief, abandonment issues, affective disorders like depression, bipolar disorder, schizoaffective, that type of scenario.
And previous to
all of this, I was a stand-up comedian and comedy writer who worked for WBCN, the Rock of Boston, back in the early and middle '80s and stuff. I had the privilege to be alongside of Billy West, voice extraordinaire. If you don't know Billy West's name, and you've heard his voice, Ren and Stimpy, Doug on Nickelodeon, the Cheerios, Honey Nut Bee, the Red M&M, Fry, the Professor Zoidberg, Captain Brannigan on Futurama and stuff.
Wow, you say that so fast. And you've been in the field of mental health and addiction for what?
Yeah, for over 30 years now. Yeah, 32, 34 years now.
So. There you go. Well, thanks for the intro. And then we also have our other co-host is Kristen Perry Long. And she is probably the most dedicated person I know in the world of addiction and mental health, and a very good soul who cares greatly. So, Chris, who are you?
I'm Chris, and I'm a mom of 5 amazing kids, 2 that are in recovery. I got into this not by choice, because many years ago when my kids were sick and suffering, I was stuck in the stigma. And I have a passion to help people, whether you have insurance or not, which is a little bit different than a lot of people. And yeah, I just want to spread the word and break the stigma and raise awareness.
And at this point, you're not affiliated with any particular group, so you are more than objective.
I'm a freelancer.
What's that?
I'm a freelancer.
You are a freelancer, but you have a lot of contacts, and if somebody's out there that needs some help and needs an independent voice, Chris is the person who can help you, and we'll get her phone number at some point, or you can give it right now, Chris. Go. Or email.
508-212-7206, KRISMA3535 @gmail.com.
Wonderful. Thank you. We're real excited about our guest today. We got a great guest. Actually, let me back up. I'm Andy Bernstein. I have been working in broadcast and doing a lot of cause marketing programs for a long time. I got really inspired by this field and have been doing it and participating for the last 3 years, creating a couple of shows, and we had a radio show. This is our 70th episode of the MAP, actually, which is crazy. I know, right? And our hope is that through media we're able to help end stigma and give people some insight to this world that they may have not known. So that's me, and I'm excited today about our guest. It's author Suzanne Laura Thistle. And she's the author of a wonderful book called Chem-Free Sobriety. And we're going to talk to her in a second with more information. But before we hear from her, I just wanted to give you an idea about something that I experienced this week about mental health. And it was kind of, made me realize that the stigma is still there. And frankly, I fell into it as well. And I am filming a documentary about sports in the Los Angeles area. Long story. I approached a former athlete who has actually suffered from depression and anxiety and has been very outspoken about it himself. and he agreed to do an interview with us. But some of his requests were a little over the top, given what we were asking for him. It didn't. It wasn't. There was. It was. It was weird. It was a weird question. And he it obviously would have been a huge name for us to get him, but he had a checkered past, and I think we all felt a preconceived notion, about working with him. So I asked kind of our team what they thought, and everybody shot it down, and they all felt that he would be more harm than good, and I understanding kind of this world, I felt connected to hearing his story, and I thought he would be great. But they thought he was, like I said, they thought he was more trouble than he was worth, and there would be more of a black eye for us if had we associated with him. And but if it was somebody else who didn't have mental health issues, we probably would have given him what he was asking for. I felt a little hypocritical myself, and agreed that it was risky. So I'm throwing it out to you guys. What do you think about that?
I would have to ponder that for a while and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you want to present mental health in a positive light, as to what you can do. And if you have someone on who could be a bit reckless with it, I mean, is it really going to be beneficial to the listeners or to the people that are watching it?
Well, not only that, but would it even be beneficial for to try to lure other guests
Hmm.
to see that this guy was associated with our project, and but when do you get a second chance? At some point, and or not even a second chance. Um,
You get a second chance when you're in a state of balance, right? I mean,
well, he is,
hmm,
but it's held against him. It's still held against him, So I felt bad, but at the same time, we can't go down a road with somebody who could almost be a bit of a loose cannon. So I felt that, it wasn't my decision arbitrarily, but everybody shut it down pretty quick, pretty quickly. And had it been my call, I probably would have gone with it, but it wasn't my call. So
maybe you could do a show of with athletes that are like a bunch of them that are all looking for a second chance.
yeah, because I mean, or
That could be a
people that are,
project unto itself. Yeah.
or people that need a second chance. Because you know what, people do things. We're all human, and we all probably do things we're not proud of, or circumstances are that of such, and we grow and change. And I felt like it could have been a good opportunity, but
Hmm.
I had to, consult with my other peeps. So I don't
Yeah.
know if you want to
But
chime
I
in.
think that like in talking about second chances, a perfect example, right, is my daughter. She's 5 years sober. She's got a criminal history, not by choice, but because that's where addiction led her. And she has a judge that is out for her, like literally out for her. That we could have a whole show on this insanity that this judge is doing to her, trying to destroy her instead of help her. And you know, I mean, I know working with people and going to court and stuff, looking for that quote unquote second chance, right? There are some judges that are so stigmatized, they don't give a rat's furry tail.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't believe
Yeah.
in second chances.
Yeah. I mean, it all comes down to, I mean, even when you look at the system, the whole system, you have those that, espouse the concept of correctional facility. Then you have those that espouse the view of prison, punishment, punitive. So, I mean,
I mean, it's a gray area, right? Because you don't want to get sucked in and think, oh, I'm going to give this person another chance, and then that person burns me
yeah,
again.
that's how
Or
judges get the name of like the hanging judge, because no matter what the case is, they go hardcore on it.
But
unless you're,
but the same token is right. So let's talk about those success cases. Let's talk about those people that turn their lives around when they were given that second chance. So what if somebody needs a third chance or a fourth chance or a fifth chance? If they're alive, if there is breath, there is hope. Period. Who are we to close the door on the opportunity to change their lives? It's not just one person's fault. it's a society's fault in that we're not providing the proper services to pave that way to help somebody, beat this disease. It's so much bigger than anybody ever wants to admit. I mean,
I was talking to somebody.
Willie.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I told him, somebody I'm working with, and I told him about the numbers of people overdose. He had no idea. He had zero idea.
5% this year. I think the number I just
88,000. 88,000.
More than that, but I just sent the number for my sign for 2,035 this year reported as of right now for 2020. 2,000
in Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts alone, and that's only reported. It's going to go up.
So here's the $1 million question. Why do you have purple flags in the back? What is that all about?
So the purple flags are for an event that I do to raise awareness. It's called The Stakes Are High. It's on Facebook. We don't have a website. It's too expensive. And it's to raise awareness. So on Foxboro Common, we place flags for the years for 2015 through 2020. So there'll be different colored flags for each year, and each flag represents a life that has been lost to accidental overdose in that particular year. And it's just to raise awareness. It's to validate that, their life was not lost in vain. By the grace of God, my kids are alive. I have not lost anybody. But the closeness that I have with a lot of these families that have lost one or two and even three kids, I can't imagine. They get up every day and they're fighting the fight every single day to raise awareness, even though they've lost, their child. So
when's the event?
So this coming Saturday, we will be on Foxboro Common placing just shy of 13,000 flags. And then the following Sunday, the 29th, we will be back here on the Common. We have some speakers. We have a state rep. We're going to have some resource tables. The map is going to be broadcasting live. I hope you didn't forget.
Next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
Which is what? What is next Sunday?
The 30th.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll be there.
Yep, 10 a.m. And we will have a moment. I will hunt you down, Andy. We will have a moment of silence. And then we ask anybody and everybody that's there to help pull the flags. And believe it or not, it's a very powerful couple of hours. And we leave the flags on display for a week. And it gets people talking. I've met so many interesting people that just kind of by a whim were walking through the Common, and they place 10, 20 flags. And they're not directly affected by it, but it's raising awareness and it's getting that conversation going.
So let me ask you a question before we get to Suzanne. I was reading that one of our former guests, she just lost her son.
Yeah, Susan Will Silva. Is that who you're talking about? Cheryl Jean,
yeah.
Cheryl Jean too. Yeah, Susan Will Silva. So Susan Will Silva, I get goosebumps. So when I started this journey, because we all have our own journeys, Susan was my mentor. Her son had already been kind of in it for probably about 3 or 4 years. And she was that many more years ahead of me as far as in her journey, and her wisdom and her support and her guidance is a huge factor as to where I am right now. And Susan's passion was to start a support program for families and people that were sick and suffering. And it's called EB Hope. Yep, yeah. East Bridgewater Outreach. And then also she started Plymouth County Outreach. And, combined, they've probably saved thousands of lives with the services that they provide.
Her son was incarcerated too, right? Is that the son?
No, Mike wasn't. I don't believe Mike died in jail. I believe
No, but I believe at one point he was incarcerated.
Oh, yeah, I think so, yeah. I don't know.
So it's very sad. I read about that the other day, and I hear about them all the time. These different stories, they come out all the time, and it's just an awful thing. I can't imagine having that happen. And my heart goes out to Susan. She's a lovely person, and she's been a guest before. And she, the thing I like about her is that in the obituary for her son, she refers to it. Where a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of, which is cool.
Loud and proud. Like I'm proud of my kids. I don't think like I'm proud of my children, all of my children. But my
What
kids
about
that
me? Am I one of your children?
sure, Andy.
Sure.
Sure.
Sure. All right. Sure. All right. All right. Enough of you. We're going. We're off
Yes.
to. We're gonna go meet an author now. Let's.
That's
let's
exciting.
I
Like
know. Me
the whole
too.
box and this is going to be a good hot topic
It
because
is. It is a hot
It
topic. It's one
is.
that I've been
yeah,
talking about for months. And when I saw this book when it came out, I was like, oh my God, finally somebody's put together a book. But I'll go into it more once we get Suzanne on.
All right. Let's welcome
There she is.
Suzanne Laura Thistle, an Amazon best-selling author for her title book, Chem-Free Sobriety. 101 trailblazers share wisdom and
Yes.
insight about their natural recovery from substance use disorders, and it came out in the grand old year of 2020. Well, welcome, Suzanne. How are you?
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Suzanne, I just have to tell you, when the second I saw the book, I ordered the book and I sat back with it, and I'm hoping to get it autographed at some point. But
Sure.
it was like, oh my God, finally somebody's put together a compilation like this.
Right?
It's so overdue. It's so
Oh
overdue
my
because
God.
it's almost like, MAT is thought of as, it's an automatic thing. Of course, when you read the detox, you're going to go on Suboxone or Vivitrol or something else. And it's like, nobody talks about nutrition. Nobody talks about it. It feels like nobody talks about exercise or nutrition. By the way, I did post a recommendation, but Amazon never put it up. So I don't know what the deal is there because I was saying, this is a book that I want my students at UMass to get. To think, to not automatically think of, MAT as being the answer. I had a couple of students,
And Matt is tell people.
medication assisted treatment, MAT. And
Okay.
I had a couple of students not too long ago. One's a judge in Boston, and the other one's a lawyer in Boston. And one of the things that they brought up in class was, how come there's no programs for people that want to maintain sobriety without MAT, without medication?
there are. It's just they're not promoted because nobody's making the money.
That's right. Like, the
Correct.
scratch.
So
But, I'm thrilled to have you on, Suzanne.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you're there with me. And so weren't 101 other people that decided to join me,
Suzanne, can you give us a quick bio about yourself and kind of how you got started, and what led you to writing the book?
Sure. Okay, well, that's a long story, but I'll try and condense it. I got sober in 1987, so it's been 34 years. And when I first got sober, but I'm surprised I got sober because I started really young and I got sober really young, and I was dying. I was literally dying, and I'm surprised I'm alive. But so when I first got sober, I was like, what the heck happened to me? What's funny is I used to eat right and exercise, climb, hike mountains. I do a lot of that, and that's hence the reason for the cover of this book. But I still was drinking and using, and kind of weird. But anyways, I got sober, and I thought to myself, why was I doing that? What was wrong with me? And so somebody led me to a 12-step program, and so I started there, and that was the beginning of my journey. But I also read a lot. I like to read. I'm constantly reading. Not constantly all day long, but most every day I read. And so I was reading everything I could, all the old timers and that started writing and speaking about addiction and recovery. And I haven't stopped since, but I started to work the 12 steps in my life. And that's where I saw a change. And I'm going to speed forward because I don't want to do 34 years, explain each year what happened.
We have time, all the time.
Well, I want to ask you a question. How many second chances were you given by pretty much like, because we're just talking about second chances.
Court, you mean? I don't, I was so young, I don't think I got into court. But how many times did I probably overdose or come close to dying? Many, many times, if that's what you mean. Is that what you mean, Kristen?
No, it's more of like, people are like, so I know like, oh, this is your last chance. This is the last chance. This is your last chance. I'm not going to support you. Like society, like as far as, did you have to hit absolute, and I don't like the expression rock bottom, but did you have to like lose everything and everyone in order to turn yourself around? Or were there those people that were on the sidelines and loving you from a distance and supporting you and kind of in a safe, non-enabling way?
What was really, I think the most difficult thing was for my father. My father got sober 8 years before I did, and he's still sober. And I'm sure that was difficult. And he was someone that loved me from a distance. I didn't hang around with people who didn't use. So, I didn't lose friends. And I was dealing drugs, so I made a lot of money, so. So I didn't lose material things. But everybody's different. Everybody walks into this recovery thing in a different way. And I love people either way, whether they've got nothing or they have a lot, but no, I didn't lose a lot of material things. I didn't lose a lot of friends. But I have better friends today, although I do still have some friends that I was using with that, I'm here, and some of them have got sober. One of my close friends almost died, and, I was there with her, which was cool to help her get sober. Actually, her mother called me, and so together we kind of tag teamed her, and she's still sober. I think she's been sober maybe 15 years now. So that's a cool part of, carrying the message. But Andrew, back to you. So through that, I always wanted to write. When I was like 8 years old, I was writing poetry. I got a poem published. I don't know when it was. It was years after that. But I always wanted to write, and I always wanted to write about addiction. I don't know. We all have that inner thing that says, do this, right? And so, I had that urge, that need to do that. And throughout my career, I figured I needed a degree to do that. I went and got my undergrad, which was interesting. When I got my undergrad, before I started, I went to the career counselor and I said, do you have a associate's degree here? Because I didn't think I could get a bachelor's degree. She goes, well, why don't you just get a bachelor's? I'm like, whoa, I don't know about that.
Right.
No, I don't do that. And anyway, she convinced me that it was a good idea, and loved school, and wound up getting my bachelor's degree. I had 2 young kids, so it took me 9 years part-time. And then, I said, nobody's going to listen to me unless I have a master's degree. So that was the only reason why I went to school for my master's.
Wow.
And I needed something that had to do with addiction. So I got a counseling psychology with addiction component. And during that time, I didn't know I had to do counseling with people, like live people. And so I started out counseling with people, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool, And I did that in the prison system.
Wow. Okay.
And, yeah, with all men. That was an interest, and I was teaching addiction in this classroom with 60 guys with correctional officers, and we were playing recovery bingo and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It was kind of fun. But anyways, after I got my master's, I started working at a mental health clinic, and I worked in the mental health field for quite many years. And I was supervising folks and managing an addiction program there, and I started to realize people were going out and making like 20,000 more than me, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's
Right,
going on
right.
here? And then I became a clinical supervisor and at a place and doubled what I made, and then I became an executive director of 2 different agencies. So throughout that whole time, you know, people were dying, more and more people were dying. You know, we were seeing the Oxycontin thing, and you know, staff, everybody was a wreck. You know, people in New Hampshire, before the insurance company started controlling who was going to get treatment, we had over 400 beds. By the time the crisis hit, and while I was in the middle of running companies, we had 100 beds. And we knew that if we couldn't get somebody into treatment, that the likelihood of them dying was pretty high if they had Medicaid or didn't have insurance, right? Because, you know, we knew if they had money, we could get them somewhere. So I was talking to, and I think this goes back to some of what you were talking to, I was talking to the governor at the time. And I said, you know, please, can you do something? Everybody's in tears. Nobody knew what the hell to do. We couldn't send people anywhere. And I said, listen, can you just give them a voucher? Let them go wherever the hell they want, you know, please. So anyways, that was happening. And then everybody put everybody on medication. All the money coming into the state. We went to the state to listen to, they wanted to hear what, you know, where this money should go and what we should do and all of that. And I think I was the only one talking about, let's do Chem-Free Sobriety. Let's give the money to wraparound care. Let's get them into treatment, you know, and most of the money, millions and millions and millions of dollars were going to medication. And I can't tell you how many people called and tried to recruit me, and I turned them down because I knew that if you start a company all about medication, then that's what you need to survive, you know? And so then we started having, you know, on our intake form, it said, you know, what's your drug of choice? And just before I decided to leave work and do what I've always wanted to do, and that is right. One girl came in and she said, I'm addicted to Suboxone. That was her number one drug of choice. People were shooting it up. They were taking other drugs. They knew they'd be tested. They were taking other drugs to, you know, offset the Suboxone test, and or they were stacking it up, not taking it, stacking it up, and then taking it all at once.
All at once.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, hearing methadone, the regional director of a methadone clinic tell me, I said, when do you take them off? And he said, well, when they're ready. Well,
what does that mean?
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a little story about that too. I was at a 2-day conference, and the last day there was a panel all about, you know, medication assisted treatment. And one of my former mentors, a psychiatrist, was on the panel, and a guy from Iowa got up and he said, you know, he asked him, you know, when do you think you should take people off of Suboxone? And my previous mentor said, I don't think you ever should. If it's working, you should keep them on it. And you know, this was my mentor when Suboxone was first out. We were talking about maybe have them on, you know, month 3, you start to taper down, month 6, they're off. So after the conference, Willie being Willie, I went up to him and stuff, and I said, hey, you know, I know in the beginning of this whole thing, we had talked about 3 to 6 months. I said, you know, but what's changed your mind? He said, oh, I don't, it's just, you know, they should just stay on it if it's working for them, Willie, and this and that. And jokingly, I said to him, geez, you sound like a guy that's got stock in Reckitt Benzler. Well, he turned 17 shades of red, and he hasn't spoken to me since. So, I mean, you know, I mean, it's a moneymaker.
So
wait, so hold on. So
Yeah.
speaking to that, right? My kids got sober by the grace of God. They got sober without any MAT.
Mhm.
It at the time, it really wasn't something that was forced upon you. And so I was like so anti MAT because that's what my kids taught me, you know. And I went and saw, do you know Peter Coleman? I don't know if you know him. Okay, so I went to this event and Peter Coleman gave this whole chit chat about Suboxone. And this is when Suboxone was just starting to ramp up. And what he said was he did a 3-year study. And what he said was, look, Suboxone is great when it's used the way it's supposed to be used, right? So you put somebody on it and you monitor them and you give them the services. It's a tool. It's not the solution. And that was the key. It's a tool. It is not the solution.
Can be a tool.
Can be, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do not have to take medication to get sober.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of a detox facility where they do a group on MAT explaining, you know, the pros and cons of all the various types of MAT. I mean, now we're starting to get the longitudinal studies out about Suboxone. You know, with it's affecting bone density, it flattens affect. You know, I mean, you know.
And keep in mind who pays for those studies.
Right.
The corporations, right?
Pay for the studies, and they have the right to adjust the outcome.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, just as a side.
This is like another whole conversation.
Just as a side note and stuff too, there was a speaker on one Saturday morning. This was years ago on BBC, and he was talking about a study. It was a company they'd come up with a new antidepressant, and they were testing their antidepressant against 2 of the competitors in the field, and it was like, you know, they were going through the whole thing saying ours causes less side effects. Look at the numbers here and this and that. And then when you get down to the fine print, the other two, the 2 competitors, they were dosing people at 3 to 4 times the suggestion by that manufacturer for a daily dose. So of course they were going to be having these horrendous side effects, but it was buried in the very bottom of the study.
Oh yeah, you know? In fine print in Chinese, and
right. Yeah, you can manipulate statistics to say anything you want, and the drug companies are good at doing it.
Right. Well, the killer is, so I worked on the Purdue Pharma. I worked for a law firm on the Purdue Pharma lawsuit.
You're like Aaron Brockovich.
I had to take the impact statements, right? Mm-hmm. So it was all about the opiates. And then it was, oh, by the way, anybody that has been prescribed Suboxone can also be a part of this lawsuit. And the impact stories that I was hearing were like, you know, I went into treatment. I wanted to do it 12 steps. And they said, well, you know, you've been back here 3 or 4 times. Let's try Suboxone. They get hooked on Suboxone. And they were like, it was worse than any heroin, opiates, anything that I did. Suboxone was it was so more powerful in the addiction than the other drugs that they were more screwed then. Like, and it's killer because, you know, these pharmaceutical companies, they produce opioids and they also produce the Suboxone. So they got you hooked one way or another.
And sellers are selling, it's not called Narcan, but it's called something else over in Europe or something. Right? Yeah.
Well, you know, the thing that always stymies me, as Suzanne, is when I have a client and they'll say, I think I should go on Suboxone. I'll say, okay, why? And they can't come up with it. Well, that's what people do, right? No, I'm saying, why do you want to go on?
Where did they learn that from? Where is that learned, Suzanne? Where do you think?
Well, the media is constantly, not just the media. Of course, they're not showing Suboxone on the media. They're saying, you know, get recovery, go to here, go there, whatever. But everywhere you go, and the money, millions, billions of dollars are going towards medication. So any seminar you go to about addiction and recovery, I remember they're talking about Suboxone or methadone. I had a commissioner just tell me to tell the governor it's not working, which if you're listening, it's not working.
Well, yeah. It's like here in Massachusetts, you know, you have the Governor's Council on Addiction. It's all MAT based.
Right.
It's all mat-based. There's like, that's it.
Well, they even have
Wait.
outreach coordinators going out and being ambassadors for.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's get you started in the homeless shelter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you notice and I meant to say, you had talked about overdoses. It's 93,000 in the US.
Yeah.
And if you look at when Oxycontin first came out until now, we started giving Suboxone way back. And the excuse was, well, we're not giving enough. And then we're not giving enough, and not enough people are getting it. But the overdose rate has gone up and up and up and up. Yeah, you can blame it on COVID, but really it's going up and up and up and up. And they were giving more, they were prescribing it and sending it home with people. They were able to give prescriptions through the internet, I guess, and give them enough for a week or a month or whatever. The overdose rate has not gone down since Suboxone. Methadone's been around for years and years and years. The other thing that's happening is harm reduction. I am not against harm reduction. It seems like in the past 10 years, people are like, harm reduction is a new thing, and all these people are speaking about it. It's like, wait a minute. We've been doing harm reduction since the beginning of time. If somebody can't get...
But it's not funded. It's
All
not
right.
funded.
Well, tell what people, tell what harm reduction is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's not you. I'm yelling at her.
Oh, you want her to tell me?
No, either of you. I'm giving her a.
The intention of harm reduction, right? So I was like, oh my God, we shouldn't be giving them clean needles. We shouldn't be doing that. But in Canada, the Canadians came down and they spoke to our governors and explained what they did and I was in that, whatever, at the State House. And it was actually really, really interesting. And they said the intention of their harm reduction in Canada was to provide a safe environment where somebody could use whatever it is that they're using. And what they did and what their intention was you come in and you say, okay, hey, Andy, it's great to see you today. Let's talk to you. Let's do a quick check. All right. And you can go do your stuff and you sit there and we're just going to keep an eye on you, make sure you're safe. Right. So Andy walks in and he's like, what is this? This is so weird, but it gives him that okayness, whatever. Andy comes back a little while later because it's time to use again. Hey, Andy, how are you doing? Glad to see you. We give you that environment. We're not co-signing on you using. What we're doing is we're creating that relationship for you to trust us. So Andy, now you've been coming every day, 2-3 times a day. Andy, let's talk about recovery. Have you ever tried it? No, I'm not ready.
Does it work?
What are your fears?
Yeah, right. Does it work? Whatever. I'm not going to come here if you're going to press me for that. Okay, no problem.
No, I'm asking, does harm reduction
Yes,
work?
absolutely. Absolutely. It works when it's done, just like Suboxone, just like methadone, when it's used the way that it was intended to use by the real professionals. Yes, they work.
I had a friend on the Consumer Advisory Board at BSAS, the Bureau of Substance Abuse Services, and he was on methadone and he wanted to come off because he wanted to start to travel and stuff. And you wouldn't even know that this guy was on methadone. His daily dose was 40 milligrams.
That's still pretty high.
40 milligrams? I've had people on 180.
Oh, yeah, 180, but
yeah, so he was on 40 milligrams and stuff. And, from the research and stuff, it's saying if you want to successfully come off of methadone, it's 1 milligram a week with counseling. So if you're on 100,
with what?
With counseling.
Exactly.
Individual and or family counseling as part of it. Exactly. But it's so if you're on 100 milligrams, you're talking about a 2-year period.
Right.
But here's where I have trouble with the funding going. We're looking at all these outside things to fix this situation. The number one thing that fuels addiction is the underlying issues, right?
Right.
Why on God's green earth are we not putting more money towards that? If you look at where the money is going, I look at it, I get things sent to me every day, and I look at where the money's going. It is not going to wraparound care.
Yes, Suzanne, I think that it's so great talking to you because I was in the addiction field for 3 years, and then I went to 14 years of inpatient locked door psych addiction, So I was doing this cross training before, it was always addiction was here and mental health was here. And
Right.
addiction looked at mental health and said they want to put everybody on meds. And mental health looked at addiction and said, oh, they think 12 step is the answer for everything.
Right.
But I mean, when you can go to a prestigious social work school in Boston, undergraduate and graduate, and at both levels, you're only offered one course on addiction. It's like, really? And even with Harvard Medical School, up until 3 or 4 years ago, you could go 4 years to Harvard Medical School and you were only offered one course on mental health and addiction. It was combined. It was a 20-hour course and it wasn't elective. You didn't even have to take it.
Right. Or nutrition. They don't offer nutrition. If they do, it's one course. And these are the things, all of these things that, if you're not eating right, you're not going to be mentally strong, right?
Well, the old timers used to always say, you are what you eat.
Right.
Not a truth to that.
So, go ahead.
Mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and soul.
So, okay, so that's great. That's a great segue.
Hold on. Soul is Suzanne's first book. You should talk about your first book.
All right, talk about your first book and then how that transformed into the second book. Because these guys, I've never seen them so excited before. Honest to God, they're like, they're like giddy right now. Both of them are like.
So good to have you on, Suzanne.
All right,
So to get to why I wrote the book, so I started having people come in addicted to Suboxone, methadone. They wanted to get off, they couldn't get off. Then we were prescribed, residential facilities were being forced to prescribe it. They're not going to get money unless they prescribe it. And all this stuff was happening. I'm like, oh my God, this is, and to try and talk about Chem-Free Sobriety for people. I remember talking to a Vivitrol rep.
I know one.
Right, which is a medication-assisted treatment that nobody wants people to know about, and he and I were talking at this addiction summit, and he said, I said something like, what's going on around here? Why can't you talk about not taking a medication to get sober? And he's like, yes, he does this. He puts his head down. Yeah, Sue, it's like you're ashamed of you. I'm like, whoa, we're on another planet here. What is going on?
Yeah.
So, so I finally said, that's it, I'm doing it. I talked to my husband and I said, listen, this is what I want to do. I had money saved. I still do. I'm still kind of using a little bit that to keep things going and moving in the direction that I'm moving in. It's a pretty big deal. I expect to sell 1 million copies of that book because so many people love it. So anyways, I decided to write that book, and tears and hard work. Oh my God, I've never written a book before, right? And I knew that if I gave it to a publisher, it would take a year to develop. So, that was too late for me. And so I had 4 editors, and as well as friends that helped, and finally got it out. And it had mistakes in it. I had to pull it, I had to adjust a few times, and it probably still does. But anyways, got it out, and it was a #1 bestseller for April and May, April, May, June, somewhere in there. It was quite a while. And I didn't even know my daughter-in-law, it was a new release bestseller. And my daughter-in-law texted me. She's like, that's a bestseller. I'm like, what? So anyways, that came out, people bought it, thousands of pages have been read. I haven't even checked to see, I'm so busy trying to get ready for school. I teach at the university, I teach about drugs. Yeah. So I'm getting ready for school. I keep telling my daughter if she wants me to visit, I'm like, I can't deal with that right now. But anyways, I got that out and I used it with my class this past semester. I've been teaching at Plymouth State University since 2006, a class called Drug Behavior. And this past semester, I used my book because a youth director read the book and she gave it to her son to read, who's a teenager. She said, Sue, this is a great prevention tool. And I never even thought of that. So I said, well, I'll try it with my class. And so I did. And by the way, if you go to Genesis ce.org. This is also, both these books are available for CEUs, for addiction professionals, and as well as PhDs, other professionals, LICSWs, that those are mental health counselors and stuff. He approached me and wanted to use that. So I was like, okay, sure. But anyways, my class, back to my class.
I'm on Amazon right now, and I'm so excited because you do audiobook.
Yes, it's the Kindle, audio, and paperback. Yes, a lot of people like the audio. But I had it with my class this past semester, and I got the highest. They have to evaluate me every semester. And I had the highest rates I've ever had this past semester. And most said it was because of that book that they loved the class, because it's real stories.
This is Soul. This is the first book.
So Chem-Free Sobriety was the first book.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And but then God is in the Attic is a book that I meant to include it with this book, but this book is pretty big. It's 418 pages, and it literally almost killed me writing it. Because if you think about it, I have to reread it and reread it and reread it and reread it. So, it was a year of pure punishment, self-punishment, though. But worth it for sure. It's, I'm sure, helped many people. And the people that I interviewed, it started out with people I knew. I thought, I can't be the only one thinking this way, right? So I started with some folks that I knew in the area, and then they kept referring me, and I did it, people all over New Hampshire. I didn't want to get one little segment. I wanted to get people all over New Hampshire. And we have Pittsburgh, which is way up north. It's almost in Canada. And that was a hard place to find because there's not many people, for one. And it's hard to get and stay sober up there because they're in the woods, and it takes forever. It takes like 2 hours at least an hour.
It reminds me, I go up to Aroostook County to lecture, Presque Isle, Caribou, up in northern Maine.
Yeah, similar to that.
Yeah, that's like I mean, the main drug up there is meth, and then they do the sex trafficking from Montreal through Presque Isle, and then it comes down to the Boston area.
So what kind of questions do you?
It's desolate. Yeah.
Suzanne, what kind of questions do you ask when you were for your subjects when you were talking to them?
That is a great question. So the reason the first question I said is, they give their story. What did you start when did you start drinking or using, and how did it progress? So first, I give you a glimpse of, I didn't use any full names, although some people don't care. They give their sobriety date and the date of interview and where they live. So you'll see I was able to get a couple of people up in Pittsburgh. I had to make some calls to the town clerk and churches and find somebody, but I did get 2 people. So I have them give a real short blurb about their story. And then I say, looking back, when do you think it was most out of control? And then how were you able to not drink or use on a daily basis? So you get some of those golden nuggets of how to stay sober, or drug-free, however you want to word it. And then I say, what is your thought about medication-assisted treatment? You will hear people say, I don't see why there's a need, or it's ridiculous, to people who say it may be necessary for some. Not one person said, I think it should be okay for the rest of their life. Not one. So think about that. Is there anything you want those struggling with addiction to know? So they're offering hope to folks. And there's 101 of them in here. So this is it's a Bible. It's a Bible about how to stay sober. And somebody said it's the big book, the New Hampshire Big Book. I did not do it. I did not do it to be a big book. I did it so that people would know that there's hope, and that you don't have to use anything to stay sober. Not to say that, I don't, if people need it, that's fine. But there is a way to do it without it. And the answers are in this book. There are people, most of the people have over 10 years of sobriety. There's, I think, 7 in there with over 40 years of sobriety. And then someone with 1 year. That one of the criteria was you had to have at least 1 year of sobriety without any mind-altering substances. And when I say mind-altering substances, I mean those that are normally that people abuse.
Let me ask, what kind of are the people? So I'm incredibly frustrated by this whole thing to try to get through to people, who I'm not in recovery, but I'm I'm on a journey, and I'm very passionate about talking about this because for a variety of reasons. But one of the things is I find it incredibly fascinating that we can't get the public who are not in the addiction related community. How do you get them involved where they understand the importance of this for their child or their family member? What do you think can be done? And do you see, your book kind of being a way to provide more insight?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I'm planning on doing a book tour in Recovery Month, which is September. I actually have, I've left this book when we've stayed at motels and I love to travel. We traveled this past year. We've traveled a lot, and everywhere I go, I leave it. A girl who. One of the things you should know is 5% of all net sales go to people in recovery who want to stay sober.
Oh, that want to stay sober. Okay.
Yeah. Or if you don't want to stay sober, that's fine too. But one of the things I did was we were traveling down south and we'd stay at motels and I'd take their tip and I'd put it inside here and I'd leave the book and the tip there for the house guests. I've left it in the housekeeper, and I've left it in libraries. And when I
replace Gideon's Bibles, then.
Yeah, like
replace all the Gideon's Bibles.
That's
great.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
But I've had parents people tell me, just the general pop, that this is a great way to learn what's going on in the mind of somebody. Andrew, if you haven't read it yet, grab Will's copy.
I will. I'll yank it out of his hand.
Or buy one.
I'll buy one.
I'll do my travels. I do plan on going this time. I was going south last time. This time I'm going across the United States. I'm going out to Wyoming. I'm going to go the northern part this summer and drop some books along the way to treatment providers. I've done a lot of these podcasts, radio shows, Facebook Live things, that sort of stuff. And so, people have heard about it. There's a lot of people that have, there's someone who said she wanted to give it away as a gift on her show. So she's done that. So I've done podcasts all over the world, which is kind of cool.
It's fantastic.
People like the book.
Excellent.
People like the book.
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to ask, who are some of the types of subjects that you focus on? Because I think that's one of the things that, people have preconceived notions on who's using, and it would, and have maybe their formed opinions. But can you speak to who are some of the folks that you've spoken with?
Yes. So I'm trying to think. The youngest person, I think it's the one with 1 year sobriety. If you read her story, you'll hear it, Kristen, when you listen to the audio. If you get the audio, I give a sample of her and another guy. There's just all walks of life. They're all age groups, all socioeconomic. I have a commissioner in there, a lawyer, a medical doctor. I have a hairdresser. I have, people from all walks of life. There's and all different ages. I think the oldest was like 80, 85, maybe. He's 85. He's been sober for something years. It was probably one of the best things I ever did in my life was to go. I love interviewing folks. I really do. You guys must love what you do here. I just love talking to people about sobriety and what they're doing and how they're living life. And the folks that I didn't know are now friends for life, and I feel really connected to them. The other book, God is in the Attic, I don't want to forget to talk about that, which was going to be in here, but it didn't make it. God is in the Attic is a God-centered book. This particular book, this has some Christian folks in it. I have 5 people from His Mansion, which is a Christian fellowship program. There's people from AA, people from NA, people who don't have any religious or philosophical whatever. They just are sober and they're using all their tools that they can to stay sober, and they probably use this book too. But God is in the Attic is a God-centered book, period. So if, it's not Christian or anything else, it's just a very spiritually based way to stay sober. It is designed for the first 90 days of sobriety. So anybody who's even thinking about getting sober or who just got sober or just went through a 28-day program, this particular one, I'll give you some of the stuff that's in here. So talking about scheduling activities, talking about when and how to seek God, balancing emotions, the value of support groups, healing with nutrition, honoring your body, professional help and case management. I go through all of what they do and how they do it and the different models they use. Honoring your body, we talk about exercise and how to exercise. My undergrad is in health education. So preventing relapse, I talk about that. Talk about honesty and how important that is. I just gave this book to someone who is having trouble with insomnia. There's a whole chapter on sleep. Creating a sacred space, a place to, do your prayer and meditation, and then what to do after the 90 days. And I also,
I just have to interject. That book is also available on Amazon.
It is, yeah.
And it's audio.
This is also audio.
Look at her. She's so giddy. I've never seen her like this. I swear.
We're definitely
I love that cover.
We definitely have to have you back out again. So,
For sure.
We have, yeah.
But I love these kinds of books because I don't know if you ever read High Intensity. It's HIGH. It's a autobiography of a young lady, true story, and it's audio, and it's her reading her own book.
Oh, wow.
And it talks about a girl that was addicted to drugs, and it talks about how she got sober. But I love the audio because it's a whole different perspective, and I think you get so much more out of an audio because we're all on our computers, we're all be able to just to sit and listen. It's so relaxing.
That's one of the things as an educator too is to come to understand how your class learns best. Some people are visual, some are auditory, some are actually like tactile. They have to have something in their hands while they're in order to learn. So so Chris, what I'm hearing from you is that you really do well with audio.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And one thing to keep in mind with this particular book, there was one girl who said, I keep saying that with this particular book. I don't know why I'm saying that. But one girl said she locked herself up in her house for the weekend and read the whole thing at once. Well, that's cool if you can do that, which is awesome.
I did that.
You did that too? Oh
yeah, I just read through the whole book. It was like, I don't want to stop.
Wow. Yeah, my sister was doing that too. She was reading it. She's like, oh, I can't put it out. But, you don't have to. You can do like a story a day, especially if you buy, if you're new to recovery, if you buy this book, this is everything I wish I knew when I would first get sober. This is all those tidbits that you learn over the years. I put them all in a condensed little thing so that it's easy to read. You can sit down and read it really quick. And while you're doing that, you read, a few of the stories in here, so.
Well, when I read is like when I drank. It was binge.
Yeah.
So I do the whole book, and then I'm back. So I tend to think of it as a healthier type of binging.
Don't you love these people though? Don't you love those folks that are in there? They're so awesome, aren't they?
Yeah.
Just share from their gut. I mean, these guys are just sharing from their gut. They're such good people.
Well, I know what I'm going to
cut to the chase.
I know what I'm going to do Saturday after I do my flags. Is I'm going to start listening to it for
Thank you. Good.
So where can people buy the book again?
So Chem-Free Sobriety, I was a little bit more, I was more into marketing. I really wish I had somebody to do this for me, but anyways, this is at Barnes & Noble. They're only online, so you got to get it through Barnes & Noble, Amazon. It's also in Gibson. God is in the Attic is only available right now on Amazon. So, but again, they're both in audio, Kindle, and paperback. I'm working on one of the things I am working on now is for family, for parents more specifically, and I've been talking to people all over the world about what they want people to know, what they wanted when they were dealing with their kid. So that's coming soon, and I'm doing a daily devotion.
I was going to say that would be amazing to do a daily devotion with a lot of your stories, the little nuggets from each.
Yeah.
Well, even do a calendar.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
What's kind of cool for me is in the morning, I'm actually, one of the books I am almost done reading is the Bible, which I've never read before. And that's been cool. And so I do my reading, and then I just meditate on it with God, and whatever comes to me is what I'm writing about. And so that'll be the daily devotion when I'm done. I've got quite a bit done. I think probably 5 or 6 months done. So it'll be a while. I want a whole year. I thought about doing it earlier, but that I think I would just be pushing it out there. So I want to get the family one out there, the parents one.
Can we have you back on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to.
We'll come back. Okay. We didn't scare you?
No, I'm not
Okay.
afraid of you guys.
I mean, at the tail end of this now, all I can think of is Joseph Campbell and the Power of Myth, and that whole series that he did. And I get with clients will ask me, well, what do you think about spirituality? God, this and that. And I always say, well, I'm sort of a Catholic, Zen, Judeo, Taoist, Muslim, Christian, born again pagan.
Yeah.
I like to take the best of it all.
Yeah. The next book I read is Nagamani Scrolls. I've had that book for a long time. And so I want to read that. I want to read the Dead Sea Scrolls. I want to, everything I can. And when I bike,
the
like
Vedas,
around the lake,
the Vedas, the Upanishads, the oldest religious text in the world. That type of thing.
You have to tell me that.
Yeah, a quick note. My older brother, he's retired. He's 71. They're allowing him to audit this program at Yale New Haven, and it's the intersection of spirituality and science. And
yes.
I mean, some of these lecturers, I mean, it's just amazing. But it's where science and spirituality
love it.
intersect.
Yes.
Really interesting.
And that's where the power comes from.
Mm-hmm. Suzanne, can you give a website?
My website?
Yeah.
I don't have a website, but I am on Instagram, naturally_sober, I think, or period sober. I'm also on Facebook, Suzanne Thistle. So, but my email is suethistle@hotmail, real simple, THISTLE, suethistle@hotmail. So they can reach me in any of those places.
We're friends on Facebook.
Oh, cool.
I always think of the Scottish flower, the thistle.
Yes, it's beautiful. It's prickly, but it
is.
I love it.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be the show police, but we're 4 minutes over, and So,
la 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 la.
like I said,
I'm so mature.
I've never 70 shows. I've never seen these two.
Oh, wow. That's so great.
Yeah, they've
No, it's
been
been awesome
very
today.
very excited. They usually are wallflowers, and today they're really.
They're not wallflowers.
The magnolias, right?
There we go.
Magnolias.
We gotta put up with that.
I know.
Never even get a word in edgewise.
All
We're
right,
gonna
so
have a long talk after the show, Andy. Yeah.
I didn't do anything. I'm trying to keep the train moving. All right.
I know.
All right. So that's our show for the week. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Check out her book. It's on Amazon.
Books.
Books.
Yes.
And we will catch you next time on the map. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/The Map 2020. And we will see you next week.
Awesome.
See you, everybody.
Thank you.
Guys, nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Okay.
Yeah.